how to start a curated newsletter using a service like Review, now owned by Twitter, or any other content curation focused newsletter publishing platform. Yeah, hey everybody, this is Ian from Mindful Marketplace, and welcome back to A Tiny Revolution. This is our brand new publishing platform for independent authors, artists, creators, makers, marketers, digital media brands, really anyone who wants to make an oversized impact or a big impact using tiny products in 2022 and beyond. All right, so today is the 3rd of April, 2022, and I recorded a series of really simple steps that anyone who is listening to this or who is part of our community can actually implement to launch a brand newsletter. This works whether you're an author, an artist, an independent maker or creator, or a digital media brand, or even an online agency who is selling services to other entrepreneurs, whether they're local realtors or CPAs or financial advisors or people like that. Really, this approach will work for just about all of the use cases that you can imagine. Now, I'd recommend that two things. One, we're going to be demonstrating a live example of this in April. So visit partners.mindfulmarketplace.com and you can see our live transparent example of us using this exact process. I think it's important that people actually visualize and see, these real ideas being implemented in the world. And number two, if you're interested in seeing how courses and content and tiny ideas can be implemented the same way, come visit us. Again, our course community has, I think, just about 30 published courses now on a ton of different ideas in this genre that you can actually implement and execute for yourself. All right, so with that out of the way, let's talk about why Review is the quintessential strategy or platform for creating a newsletter, right? This is ideal for those of us who may like to write. I actually think of myself first and foremost as a writer, but the truth is it takes a lot of time to write long form essay style newsletters. This approach is ideal for curating, clipping, snipping, culling, collecting content from around the web and then publishing it on a newsletter that actually is ethically oriented around, connecting with your professional peers, your niche neighbors. You're actually using their content, but in the most complimentary and the most effective way possible. All right. So I'm going to read this post from our community today that I published today, and you can see it on our platform. So I'd encourage you again to visit us and join the community because you actually get a much, much deeper dive experience rather than listening to this via a podcast, or this will be republished on YouTube as well. Our podcast platform, transistor.fm, actually republishes all these audios on YouTube automatically, which is great. Not many people watch them or listen to them, but for those of you who do, hopefully this hits you at the right time, at the right place in your life. All right, so Review is ideal. And again, Review is now owned by Twitter. I did a course on them years ago when they were just a small startup out of, I think it was Amsterdam, actually, I forget exactly where, but now they are owned by Twitter. And all of the ideas here are even more powerful, again, and more there's much more potential, obviously, when you have this huge company like Twitter now behind this small, tiny idea. All right, so Review is actually ideal for folks who don't have a ton of time to write, and even those who don't genuinely like to write. And the reason is simple. 90% of us who are using a platform like Review focus on curated content. And content curation done well, in my view, is the absolute easiest way to ethically clip and collect and repurpose content in just about any niche, market, vertical industry, or geographical area that you can actually imagine. It actually makes you look more expert and authoritative, even if you have zero audience or name cachet in a niche. Now, for an example of this, as I mentioned earlier, I'm actually launching a brand new newsletter in April in the NFT space. It's called Trippy NFTs. And essentially we're celebrating authors and artists who are creating interesting, introspective art within the mental health, mindfulness, and psychedelic themes. I don't know anyone really in this space, a couple people, because I've started the outreach campaign. So I've begun to establish relationships with a few people, but I'm certainly no expert on NFTs. I actually know very little. I'm certainly no expert on Web3. I know even less about that. And, I may have a little bit of expertise in trippy art, simply because I've created some of my own, and I've been interested in psychedelics and that sort of thing, mindfulness, meditation, and those sorts of trippy experiences for a bunch of years. But I'll be using the exact same ideas that I'll be articulating below as you listen to this to launch a legitimate newsletter that will help us build a brand, grow a business, and launch hopefully a niche community in this space. And again, we're also launching in a tandem with that, an experimental, really kind of edgy, funny, kind of entertaining publishing platform for folks who are actually working in the space. The brand is called Contra Brand, and essentially it's going to be this sort of anti-online agency for kind of these unique artists who are writing about psychedelics and mental health and creating trippy art and all that sort of thing. I don't know how effective it's going to be, in terms of getting clients, but I'm excited about it. It's fun. I like doing creative, imaginative things that are off the wall, and this certainly in conjunction with a few other people is going to be one of those things. So the newsletter is really the most important first step, and using curated content will give us tons of leverage to connect with thought leaders in this space. And the same is true for you, regardless of whether you're doing something in realty or real estate or financial advice or some other kind of local therapeutic, mindfulness, mental health. I mean, any idea that you can imagine can fit into a newsletter shaped whole. And so I recommend that this is the approach that you follow as well. All right, I'm going to cover this quickly, and then you can read the rest of this and interact with our community if you're interested at the link below. All right, number one, the sign up for a review. Obviously, that's step number one. Step number two, really important, install the review bookmarklet for Chrome. You'll find the instructions for this in the integrations tab, and do the same for their mobile app. I'm pretty sure it's actually for Android as well. I use it for my iPhone, and it's awesome. So you can actually curate content from your phone using review. All right, step number three, you're going to curate other people's content first. I want you to watch the video to see this live. The video is actually in our private community. Step number 3A, set a Google alert for 3 keyword phrases that are a market match for your content, your community, and your ideal audience. So in our case, let's say it might be psychedelics or NFTs, or, in some other projects, I've done this for mindfulness, meditation, mindfulness, all these different sort of permutations of the mindfulness phrase or keyword phrase. Very, very effective. Google will send you in an email every day with news that's happening right then, that day, in that space, right? So it's really great for content curation. Step number 3B, use the Google News tab to surface other current events and recent content that may not be found in the primary Google search engine, may not be in the Google News alert, but that will be very helpful for, again, being authoritative with respect to things that are happening in a current event sort of context. All right, step number 3C, again, we're getting a little nerdy here, but use Google Trends. You can find lateral content and deep dive, in a different way into the sort of content your audience will read, share, and love. There are also, other permutations of this process for competitive keyword intelligence. You can use something like Gummy Search, which is great for doing, like, finding out what people are talking about on Reddit, which is, a great source for, niche information. You can use the Google standard search results to find articles, stories, links and content to share as well. And then step 3E, I'm going like pretty deep into this, but you can share popular social media posts for your niche market, vertical, or local area. You make a list of influencers and keep an eye on what they're posting. Obviously, this is a smart idea, for any kind of newsletter, but you can share this selectively and then mention them when your newsletter goes live. This is really a great way of getting noticed, right, by people that you want to be noticed by, right? You're building rapport and relationships with other influencers, and you're saying nice things about their content, right? So if I'm posting content that's celebrating or commenting on or loving a piece of art that's a trippy NFT in some way, and I reference that back to the newsletter and I ping the author or the artist, some percentage of people are going to look at that and they're going to say, thank you, that's really awesome. And they're going to share the post and they're going to share their art, which is featured in the post, which of course makes their art look more important and relevant and makes it more valuable on some level. In the NFT space, all that stuff is hugely important. So you're using this human psychology element to actually really build your brand by letting people, repost, reshare the things that you're saying in your newsletter about their work. All right. I'm not going to cover this too much more, but you can use Pinterest for this. You can use YouTube videos for this. You can, if you're building a directory or a marketplace, you can link, from your newsletter back, your review newsletter back to your courses, your content, your products, your affiliate programs, your members' listings. If you're building a directory like some folks in my community are, or a marketplace, this is just a great way of building buzz for your brand, for your blog, and for your business, again, by using curated content. Just be imaginative, right? Just follow your own entrepreneurial intuitions. And there's really an unlimited, this is a strategy that you can follow in any direction that makes the most sense for you. And you can really just continue to build on this, to develop, and to redefine how it is that you find content, like I've covered above, that is, most useful for you. All right. Step number 4, and obviously we're a lot more than 4 steps, but add your own content, right? You can repurpose content from your own blog, your own magazine, your own, websites, your own landing pages, your own partners, your listings, your profiles. I mean, anything that you can imagine, your NFTs, if you're building those. I know some of you are creating NFTs, in our community. I mean, all of this can be done from the integrations tab within the review back end. You can integrate with Pocket, which I love and use, Facebook, Twitter, Medium, RSS feeds, etc., really anywhere you have a social media profile or presence. All right, again, I'm going to get a little redundant here, so I'm going to keep this short, but you can share listings from your your site, community, directory using the link functionality within the newsletter. Review has a link, kind of tool, for lack of the right word, and you can just see it in the editor and just drop in, whatever you want there, and it'll link back to your site, right? You can use the review bookmarklet to do this as well, which is really, really great if you're using Chrome or you're using your phone. You can add products from your store. Again, we're getting somewhat redundant here, but like WooCommerce, Podia, affiliate programs that you're, recommending, podcasts, coaching, consulting offers, etc. All right. The most important thing, and this I'm going to skip ahead. Again, if you want to read some more just detail-oriented stuff, you can come to our community and read it there. But step number 5, this is really important, and this is the final step I'm going to share here, is stick to a schedule, or set a schedule and stick with it. When you're, publishing this sort of content, you want to be really disciplined and follow a schedule, whether it's once a week, once every 2 weeks, or once a day. Just make a commitment and actually follow through. This is hands down the most important piece of this process and the puzzle. You want to stick to the schedule that you set up for yourself, because as soon as you start to cheat and slide and kind of make excuses about why this week or this day you're not going to do anything, this is when everything goes into the shitter, and eventually you'll just leave the project in pieces rather than in a really uniform whole kind of cloth way. So, again, maybe set the bar low if you want, but it's so easy to do this. I have a client who actually started doing a review newsletter as part of her wedding directory, I don't know, back in late 2021, early 2022. And it's amazing to see how, she's every week, she set a date and this thing goes out. We're not even, I haven't talked to her now since probably January when our consulting ended, but it gives me a lot of pride to see that every week, I still get the email from her community with all the things that I just mentioned above that she's doing. Links to her vendors on the profile or on her community, links to news, links to other cool resources that her audience is interested in. And every Thursday, I think it is, I get this email. I'm not interested in weddings of this sort that she's curating, but I'm interested in seeing how easy this is to do and how you can start from scratch and really build up this sort of brand and asset when it comes to your brand that has a lot of long-term value. All right. So, the one thing that I would just reinforce here is just stick to a schedule, set it in the beginning. Even if I commit to doing these things generally every day, and the days that I don't feel like doing it, I just do the minimum to meet the threshold that I set for myself. So I might just curate 2 links and then I'm done. And you can actually save all these things in your review backend. So you don't have to do the same thing every day. You can spend like a Sunday collecting 50 things that you're going to be curating that week, and then just add them selectively on a daily basis, and you're done. So you're not like, this is really easy. It's very quick, and it's ideal for people who are busy or who don't want to spend a ton of time doing this work, on a daily basis, right? If you don't do anything, nothing changes, nothing moves, nothing improves, no momentum happens, and ultimately no you don't transform yourself or your business in any way. But if you actually do this one thing, just stick with the above every day for 30 days or once a week or twice a week or whatever your commitment has been, you'll have something real that somebody can see or that people can see and visualize and subscribe to and identify your, the look and feel of your brand, your ethos, your approach, and the sort of person you are, the sort of business you're building, and you'll have an asset to add to your portfolio, right? Your brand now has a newsletter, and it's cultivating a connection to your niche neighbors, your professional peers. You have more content rather than less. And if you're building an authority site, this is more reasons for people to want to connect with your community and ultimately vibe with your tribe. All right, so there's also a bonus audio here that I recorded a while ago that you can actually listen to as well if you're part of our community, and it covers how to do this with some other platforms as well. There's another platform called curated.co that I recorded a bunch of tutorials on a few years ago. I actually still think they look like a great platform. I haven't used them in quite some time because I've been just so blown away by how good Review is that it's really been the platform of choice. I don't really see a reason to go in any other direction. The only benefit that Curated had that I think they still do is they have built-in advertising. So you can actually sell advertising directly from your platform, and you don't need, if you want to go that route, you don't need an external tool. I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that makes changing from Review kind of smart, but nonetheless, you can check out them as well. They actually also have a really generous free plan, although eventually you have to pay for Curated, whereas because Twitter now owns Review, you don't. So another reason why I recommend Review first and foremost. All right, certainly more than Substack, certainly more than MailChimp or ConvertKit or one of those sorts of platforms for newsletters. We run several different newsletters on different platforms, on Podia, for an example, where our course community is. All that's, newsletter driven. I pay for Flowdesk as well, and I run some newsletters off of that. I really like that as well, but nothing is better than Review for starting from scratch and building your brand and having fun and making this really easy. Teach what you know, do what you love, wake up the world with your work. Thank you so much, as always, for listening. If you want to get in touch with me, mindfulmarketplace@gmail.com, or come and sign up for our community, and you'll get access to a whole bunch of other things that you really, I think, are, in all modesty, are life-changing, business-changing ideas and approaches and unique spins that you won't find in any other place online. Okay, thank you so much for listening, and as always, have a wonderful day.